So our special guest this afternoon, Professor Babafemi Adeyemi Osofisan. He was born on June 16, 1946, and he sometimes is simply known as Femi Osofisan, or FO for short. He is a Nigerian writer noted for his critique of societal problems, his use of African traditional performances, and surrealism in some of his novels. And a frequent theme that his novels explore is the conflict between good and evil. In fact, he is a didactic writer whose works seek to correct his decadent society. He has also written poetry under the pseudonym Okimba Launko. I've said a lot about him already, enough said I should say, but this is from an earlier interaction with him earlier in the week, and boy, did he have a whole lot to share with us. Yes, he did. Well, at this point in time, wherever you are across Africa, lace your boots, roll your sleeves, and let's have a wonderful interaction with Professor Femi Osofisan, who is right here about to do the do with us. Good afternoon to you, Professor Babafemi Adeyemi Osofisan. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, sir.
Thank you very much. Actually, you don't have to go to the entire long name. You can just shorten to Femi Osofisan.
Sure.
What would you do?
Sure. I just wanted to do the honors as far as we are starting. Of course, as we continue, I'll just call you Femi. I'll just call you Femi. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah,
but
that's better.
let's start from your name. Even before we kickstart the main conversation, I noticed while, checking out your name and all of that, that Oshofisan signifies that your paternal ancestors were artists or artisans who worshipped the god of beauty and ornaments, Osho. Is that correct? What do you know about the origins of your name, Prof?
Yeah, that's it. They were entertainers and so on. But then, don't forget that entertainment wasn't a primary profession in those days. It was a gift that to practice along with your profession. My paternal ancestors were actually hunters and farmers.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so this is what they did the artwork as an extra thing, their leisure, if you like.
I see. Well, that is an interesting, backstory, if you like, to the name you bear, Osho Fisan. Very interesting one there. But let's quickly talk about your background, growing up, your childhood, the influences, and all of that. What can you share with us about what has shaped you to become who you are in terms of growing up and why you would even want to pursue education and write plays? Let's start from there, Prof.
Well, I guess it's the combination of things. When you're young, you don't really know where you're going to end up. I happen to have lost my father when I was just 2 months old. So I didn't know him. And he was more or less the breadwinner of the family. So when he left, the family was plunged more or less into poverty, if you like. Since my father died and my mother could not cope, the 2 children they had, my senior brother and myself, they were more or less farmed out to relatives. And I said I went with his junior brother, and he was being transferred all over the place by this company, the trading company. So, and I was moving with him all over the place. So I didn't have a stable beginning, if you like. Went to different towns, always being uprooted. After a year in first school or the other, we have to move with him to another town, and so on, until I actually passed to the secondary school. That was my break. I haven't gone to that place. We had best of teachers, everything. And my aim there was to become an engineer or a doctor.
I see.
The school itself, Yeah, I mean, the school itself was very much science oriented. We had the best laboratories and so on. So, in fact, I did all the science subjects and had distinctions in all of them. But at the time we were going out, we had a principal who was very much interested in the arts. He's dead now, Mr. D.J. Bullock. He used to do productions in the school every year, large productions, and involved girls' schools. Government was a very much male institution. So this was the big attraction to all the students to have to act with the girls, of course.
Wow.
So, so he called me and said, look, all of you just doing science and all that. Why don't you do the arts? I mean, who are we going to hand over to?
Beyond the influence of Mr. Bullock, what spurred you on? I mean, yes, you went on to read some courses in the arts, French and all of that, but what spurred you to keep on going and going and going to the point where now, well, you are a professor, a playwright and all of that?
I get what you mean, but you see, at that age, they have not really decided on the career. Because it's just a question of doing the best you have to do in the class. You understand?
Yes.
So, yeah, and then, I was also the president of the Drama Society. So, we did a lot of things, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. In those days, there was no problem of a job once you came out. I mean, several jobs will be waiting for you.
They're very different from what we see today.
Very, very different. Very different. So there wasn't any anxiety about which kind of job and all that. What happened was that once I left university, now I wanted to be a writer. That's what I wanted to be.
Okay.
And so I thought the best way to do that, to achieve that, would be to go and teach in a secondary school. And then I will have time to do my writing. And so even though I was offered a bursary, the university in those days, offered scholarships and bursaries to the best students in each department. And I happened to have been had the best results in my department. So I was given a bursary to continue to the postgraduate.
Okay.
But I had decided I wanted to be a writer. So I wasn't interested in this bursary at all. So I didn't take it. I just went to secondary school where I had worked earlier. I thought I would be able to write there and so on. But a week or two there, I was completely disillusioned.
Wow.
You lived on campus and you had all kinds of illusions about the life. But once you came out of campus, the reality will hit you very hard. So when I came out of campus and I took up this teaching job, and I discovered that the classroom where we went, the students were not inspiring at all. The other teachers were even less inspiring. I mean, we would discuss very banal issues on the staff room, and everybody's going, talking about banalities and so on. Oh my God, I was totally disillusioned. So I just decided to go back to the university.
Okay.
And so that's when I took up the postgraduate offer at the university.
Is this when you went to Dakar in Senegal, or was this after that when you went to the Sorbonne in Paris?
Yeah, okay. So the Dakar thing was part of the undergraduate program.
Okay.
Because you were doing French then, you had to spend a year in the French-speaking country.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to Dakar. And so when I came back now, as part of my research work, I went to France to do the practical side of it. But it didn't go on very well in France either, because
what exactly happened? Because your stint in France was very brief. What happened there?
Yeah, well, I was at the Sorbonne, and Sorbonne itself was going through all kinds of changes then. The Sorbonne had been broken into 12 different campuses, all in Paris. And I was in Sorbonne 3, which is part of the old Sorbonne. Unfortunately, the department then was headed by an old Sorbonne type, very, very conservative. Very, he was a philologist, and, we didn't get on at all at the seminar. In fact, at the point I just stopped going to the seminar. We had to write a report about me, and when I went to him, he said I wasn't going to write it. Because I decided I was not interested in what he was teaching. I was more interested in contemporary works, and particularly in Francophone theater.
So you are a bit of an academic rebel, and you got punished for that.
Well, no, for him maybe. For Vizira had gone to another university in Paris, for instance, under different. There was Bernard Dorf and so on. I would have had that problem, but in Ibadan, you don't know really what the situation is in Paris and so on. So it was just choose the best, Sorbonne, I wanted to write my thesis on Aimé Césaire, the Caribbean poet, playwright, And he said, no, I couldn't do it. What is African theater? What is all this? He didn't even believe in contemporary French artists, writers, not to talk of African or Caribbean.
So in the end, that was what led to your departure from the Sorbonne, and you returned to the University of Ibadan.
Yes, because I had done most of my work anyway in the libraries. There are so many libraries in Paris, so I had collected all my stuff. So I just decided to leave. It wasn't a very wise thing, because I wanted to focus on Africa and the Caribbean, not on French, or France or anything. And I already had that problem in Ibadan because the head of the department didn't like that. He was a specialist on 19th century French literature, and that's what he wanted me to do. And I said, no, I didn't want to do that. But he said, okay, that's what you have to do. So I wanted to leave, but my friend said, no, my son, you just stay there. Where you want to do? You want to go back to secondary school? So I did it for a year, and I must say I learned a lot because he was very good at it. I learned a lot. But when he then called me after 1 year, now what do you want to do? I said, I still want to do African something. So anyway, they then sent me to do field work in France.
Okay.
And I went to this place, and that was quite another shock because.
So where did you end up this time in France? Which part of France do you end up in this time?
I was in Paris at Sorbonne.
Okay.
Sorbonne in Paris. Yes. So I said, the Paris the Sorbonne had been broken to a number of universities then, but I was in the old Paris 3. And once I discovered that this was not going smoothly with my supervisor, I decided to break out on my own. So I began to frequent theaters and libraries to gather material. And I really gained a lot because working with theater artists there changed my perspective on what theater could be completely. Because if you remember, this was the late 1960s, when the revolution was going, the sugar revolution in Europe. There was a lot of student agitation and so on, and I was involved in it. So the people like Jean-Paul Sartre were very much active. In fact, once you can walk with him once on the streets when he was protesting. In his old age, I really admired him. But from there, I got to know that literature has a political purpose. It's not just innocent that we just read and we enjoy ourselves. No, every literature is political. So when you read, even when we were enjoying the spy novels, we never knew that they were, kind of indoctrinating us against Soviet Union, against, you know what I mean? All the literature we read in Ibadan and so on, they just, suppress all the contributions of black people. Yeah, late 60s, that's the beginning. Already I had this problem in Dakar.
Yeah.
I was one of those expelled, when the agitation began, because on the streets, again. So already, but then when in the 70s, 71, 70s, when I came to Paris, it was hot. And this was really, and I learned a lot from the students because they were really well organized. The students and the movements were organized, they were focused. And so from that, and then from the theaters, if you know anything about theater, I don't know, you may have heard of the name Madame Nushkin and the Lakatoucherie. The Lakatoucherie, Lakatoucherie was an old series of warehouses which the city modernized and gave to different theater groups to work in. So weekends, it will be flooded with people who are not coming to watch the plays, and they were very politically engaged. So I learned a lot there.
And all this that all this that you learned, Prof. Of course, you brought back home, and you served in different capacities in academia. I mean, you returned and you served as acting head of the erstwhile Department of Modern Languages, acting head, then head of the Department of Theatre Arts. I'm talking about the University of Ibadan.
But not immediately. I mean,
yes, of course. You went through the mill before getting there.
Yeah, because I left Paris without a degree, without anything. So I mean, I couldn't even get a job. I couldn't be employed because I didn't have a second degree. You had to have a master's, and I didn't have one.
So you became assistant lecturer?
No, I wasn't even given a job.
Wow.
I had to finish my PhD. That was it. I had to, I was living with a friend. He just helped to accommodate me, and I finally wrote up the whole thing there, because I had the material with me. And then it was after I now got my PhD that I could be given a job.
Wow. So you had to finish all of that before you even assumed the assistant lecturership position.
Oh, yes, that was the system. We had no job. I was penniless. I was terrible. I mean, it was quite an experience. But, that was how I had to do. In fact, there was more drama than I've just told you. Because after I finished the whole business, the thesis, it was quite a huge piece of work because I was doing pioneering work. It was 782 pages of typesetting. And then it was all handwritten then because we don't have computers in this. Then I gave it to the typist. I gave it to him, and then I just went home and collapsed. I just slept for about 24 hours. Then when I came back, the drama began. The typist had lost a whole bloody manuscript.
You're kidding me.
He could not find it. We searched all his office. We went to his house. We searched everywhere. We could not find it. I mean, you can't believe this.
So what did you do?
I didn't even argue, because if I had wasted time arguing with him, I don't think I would ever have done it again. I just climbed back to my office, the office of my friend there, and began to write the entire thing again. I bought carbon paper, and I had 3 copies. I was handwriting everything again, so that I kept a copy with him, a copy in my shirt.
That must have been tricky, especially as, I mean, today you could have been saving it on your laptop or copying it onto your pen drive, so you wouldn't have had to go through that kind of hell. But then all of these technologies did not exist. You had to do it all over again. 782 pages. He lost all of that, your entire manuscript, and he had to do it all over again.
I mean, it was a whole box I gave him to test, and he lost it.
Wow.
And I didn't even think once. If I had stayed back to think about it, I would have lost all my, I mean, imagine a whole year of suffering, because I had to do it to get a job. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything.
Wow.
Wow. I was writing almost 24 hours a day. I would just lock myself in the office and begin to write.
Well,
and then he lost.
At least we can celebrate the fact that eventually all of this, turned out well, and you had your stint. I mean, you finally landed a job and all of that. Let's talk briefly, very briefly, owing to the passage of time, about your rising to, the level of a professor. What did it take to get to this level?
Well, you have to, the university system is better than most, because the criteria are so well set up. You have to do certain things, and if you do those certain things, you get promoted. So even though I came to my department, to a hostile department, because the head of the department really didn't appreciate what the quarrel with his friend in Paris, and then I was doing something he himself didn't like. So, but it was a white man, and white people, they respect the laws, at least when the laws are well set out. So, whenever it came to promotions, I would go to him and say, well, please, do you want to put me up or not? And he would say, why? I said, well, because I think I deserve to be promoted. Then he would say, okay. Go and bring your papers. Well, I said, well, because I'm ready to put myself up. The university system was so good that I'm not sure we are still that generous now. You could put yourself up, and then that would be considered independently of the department in those days. So I always told him, well, don't put me up. I'm ready to put myself up.
Wow.
Then we said, okay, go and bring the papers. And whenever I saw the papers, I saw that, well, there was no choice. And so he would do it, so that even those who arrived before me in the department, who were his boys, they thought they couldn't be confrontational. So I got promoted before them. And they were very, very unhappy about it. They said, no, but you should just help yourself, that's all.
And so, yes, I'm listening to you, Prof. And so, well, at least it all turned out well. But moving from the
Thank you.
academic sphere, we'll soon be talking about your playwriting, the novellas you've written, and all of that. We can't also skip the bit about your influence when it comes to certain newspapers, specifically the Guardian newspaper and the Comet. This think tank you set up, did it actually, was it the founding bed for these newspapers, the Guardian and the Comet? Tell us a bit about your stints with these
No, well,
newspapers.
that's quite a different story. So I was going on sabbatical when Stanley McCable, that was his name, Dr. Stanley McCable, was a remarkable newspaper man at the time, came to see me to say, look, we want to start this newspaper, and we would like you to be part of it. So that was basically the thing, because I respected him so much. He was the Daily Times then, and I used to make contributions. So he said, we want to start this newspaper, which will be objective and so on. It was very challenging. So I said, okay, instead of going where I was originally planning to go, I would just go to this newspaper. So that's what we did. We started the Guardian, and it became very successful. We have thought it will not be successful until for 9 months. We thought we gave ourselves 9 months, but in 3 months, 3 months, it was the first. It was the paper of choice.
It was a hit.
It was quite an exciting thing, and that one went on for many years until we all left that place and decided to start a different newspaper.
But right before you go on, Prof, is that the same Guardian newspaper that has survived till today in Nigeria? Or that's a different Guardian?
Yeah, it is.
It's the same one?
It is.
Wow.
The same one. Well, we started in 1983. My friend, it has changed a lot from what it used to be. And when I went to the Guardian, I had 2 major objectives in mind when I joined that newspaper. One was to rescue journalism. I mean, the newspapers were so atrocious at the time. Bad grammar, bad everything, and then you couldn't even trust the news. It was so biased and so on. So we said, okay, we want to set up a paper that will rescue journalism. This was what we did. But my second objective was to use the newspaper to promote literature. The complaint, of our writers, still now, in fact, that there's, our people don't read literature. They read other things. They read religious pamphlets, things like that, But literature itself is not very common. It's not very popular. So I thought, well, okay, maybe we can use the newspapers to publicize literature. I was thinking of the times of Charles Dickens and so on. Remember that Dickens published his works mainly through the newspapers, week episodes, in those days. So I said, well, we can try that here. That if literature, if people will not go to literature, maybe literature can go to the people.
Kind of like Muhammad moving to the mountain and the mountain coming to Muhammad if you will not get there.
Exactly.
I see. But focusing on literature still. So that's how, you started using that pseudonym. Very interesting. But how about your plays? You have about 60 of them. And something I notice, a trend, that you tend to use other people's stories. For example, a book that I've read, Nikolai Gogol's The Government Inspector. You have your own rendition of that. You also have your own rendition of Antigone by Sophocles. You have one that you call Tegoni. Tell us a bit about, your plays that you've written, 60 plus of them.
Well, as I said, I mainly write plays. So all my plays are written in my name, Femi Osofisan. My plays, my essays, but poetry and the novels are written under the pen name, working by Naoko. And, plays, these are the things as I said, when I came out of Paris, this was really the thing that I came out with. The use of plays for political purposes, the use of plays to correct social ills and so on, committed plays and so on. So that's what I wrote. And when I went back, this was what I wanted to do, to use my plays for social political things. But then there's also the challenge of writing plays that will be African. Will not just be
that will be representative of the continent and what we stand for.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where the idea of adaptation came. That some plays, like the Go-Go play you mentioned, for example, I thought was a very good play to satirize the corruption in official places and so on. But I wanted to localize it, not just do the Go-Go thing, Russia thing. So that's what I did. But also commissions. I began to get commissions to write African versions of different plays. So that's why you have a large proportion of my plays, which are adaptations.
How?
I don't really call them adaptations. They are to read them. You see that they are rereadings, as I call them, rereadings of the European plays.
Now, your plays are targeted at influencing society. Looking back at all the plays you've written, how much of an impact would you say they have had on your immediate community in Nigeria and across Africa, especially?
Well, the thing is that this is not something you can measure mathematically. You can't say, okay, it's 70%, 80% or something. But the fact that they continue to be done, and I'm sure you already know that I'm the most performed all over Africa. So even in Ghana, there, how many plays have come to do that? I was there just last December, working at the National
Theatre
in Ghana. Yes. So you can say, well, if they have been done to demand everywhere, they must have an impact. If they don't, why are they being done? Why are both theater artists and the audience love this? Why? There must be a reason.
Yeah, but there definitely is something to your works that has attracted audiences across Africa, which is why they're still being performed.
I'm glad. It's not just in Africa, in the US, in Britain, France, Germany. I've been all over in Sri Lanka, Australia. I think I'm very happy at the reception, generally, all over the world, not just in Africa. Well, we lost.
Let's talk now about your awards. And in 2015, I know you won the Power Membership Honorary Award, and you also famously won the 2016 Thalia, or should I say Thalia Prize from the International Association of Theatre Critics. Tell us a bit about the awards you've won, and which one are you most attached to, Prof?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm not too keen on awards. I think the writer should just write, and if the awards come, you're lucky. They're very pleasant to get the awards, but I don't think any writer should write only because of awards. You get what I mean?
Yes,
I totally do. I don't think that should be your goal. But if you are lucky to get an award, then that's just part of it. But really, the impact of the work on the audience is what matters.
And
I've got a
if
number of
awards had to do with luck, then I would say you have been very lucky.
well, but really, I do have a number of awards, but the most pleasing, I think, is the National Merit Award here, which is the one for the humanities, which is the highest academic award you can get.
Wow.
In Nigeria.
The National Merit Award, you said.
National Order of Merit, that's what it's called. Which I got far back in 2004.
Wow.
That's been a very, really, what do I call it, important award. Because that's the highest, as I said, the highest award for the humanities here. And that's very pleasing to me. So that's the best of the awards I've got. I got awards, National Association of Nigerian Writers for my drama, poetry. The one I haven't got yet is for prose.
Which one?
For prose work. I haven't got any award yet.
Well,
not that was deliberate. I mean, I haven't done enough work. That's what I need to get any award. So I'm thinking maybe I should do some more novels before I think. Thanks. Let me also just say a quick hello to all my actors and the audience there in Ghana. I miss you all. Thank you.
Well, a big thank you to you too, Prof. Now, was that not refreshing, invigorating, insightful? Professor Femi Osofisan, a literary titan on the continent of Africa, all the way from Nigeria, joining us there. Let me just acknowledge this message right before we take, some, motivational quote from Prof, who's still here with us. This message comes through all the way from the UK, and you say, are you experiencing technical issues with Arts Africa with Femi Osofisan? 50 minutes into a 90-minute program and nothing yet from your guest. All we've listened to are fillers. And maybe you can inform us about some of his work, including excerpts from his plays, Just Thinking Aloud. Thank you. Well, thank you too for sending in that one. I just wish you had added your name. So here's the bit. The interview session commences on the last leg of the show. We bring you the drama piece, we bring you our literary readings and some music. Yeah, so you can call them fillers. But our special guests hit, let's say, sometime around 40 or 50 minutes after the show. And that's exactly what happened today. Just so you know, that's what we do here with a running order. But let's quickly do this one. Let's take that motivational message like we usually do every week from our special guest. Prof, what do you have for us today on that beat?
Rise, take your dream to the end of the streets, then stretch the streets. Take it to the end of your dream.
Wow. I think that's one for us to take a second bite at.
Rise, take your dream to the end of the streets, then stretch the streets. Take it to the end of your dream.
Beautiful one there by Professor Femi Osofisan. Well, all too soon, that's how we have to wrap up on another installment of Arts Africa right here on Africa Global Radio. Our special guest today, Professor Femi Osofisan. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I'm host of this program, Arts Africa. It's brought to you in collaboration with the Creative Writing Academy.